could do, I could do better. I can do anything better. No, you're not.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I can shoot a partridge with. How do you sing that?
¡Chavales! ¡Vamos a reaccionar! ¡Wow! ¿Un vídeo? Que me apetece ver, la verdad.
Anything you could do, I could do better. I can do anything better.
I can shoot a partridge with a single cartridge.
I can get a spark. Yes, I can.
No.
Hamburger.
Pizza time.
It's really ready to get